From Battleborn Progress, this is Out in Front. I'm your host, Jacob Solis. This week, we bring you a special Tuesday episode of the show because today is a special Tuesday. That's right, today is National Voter Registration Day. To mark the occasion, we brought on a couple of experts to give you the scoop on how you can take advantage of the Voter Registration Day spirit, whether that's registering for the first time or just making sure everything's up to date. Later, we also dive into some of the more recent changes to voter registration law in Nevada over the last few years to break down what you need to know heading into the November election. With all that out of the way, let's get to the rest of the show. And joining us now to tell us all about National Voter Registration Day and why it matters is Angelina Saldana, Field Manager at Silver State Voices. Angelina, thanks so much for joining Out in Front.
Hi, Jacob. I'm really excited to be here.
Well, excited to have you. And yeah, you know what? Let's start there. Today, Tuesday, is National Voter Registration Day. Why make a day of it? Why is it so important?
Well, it's so important because it gives us an opportunity of getting people registered to vote, getting our loved ones registered to vote, having a big old party about it. It is a national holiday completely based on registering people to vote, completely nonpartisan as well. And I think another important reason why I like this holiday is it gives voters an opportunity to actually get ready for the election coming up. And that makes it so that they don't have any boundaries when the day comes, right? And they're actually able to voice their concerns, voice their wants, their needs, the wants and needs of their loved ones at the polls.
Absolutely. And to that end, just real quick before I get to my next question, you mentioned that it's making sure there's no boundaries. And this could be as simple as, you forgot to update your address when you moved. And you have to make sure that everything is up to date. So it's not just, okay, I registered when I was in high school, I pre-registered, or I registered when I went to the DMV. Still an opportunity to get in on the National Voter Registration Day action. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think something that we focus a lot on in our work is obviously we try to register people to vote, that initial registration, but there's also checking your registration. Is your address up to date? That's a super important thing that people forget about a lot. And then they go vote or they go to the polls on election day and they're like, oh, actually my ID isn't up to date. This isn't up to date. And that sometimes gets in the way of them actually voting.
Okay, well, this is a great segue then, because I want to know, what should Nevadans know about getting registered to vote? Is there anywhere in particular they should be looking for information?
So they can actually go to the Secretary of State's website. That's a great resource. There's lots of information there. You could also check out your local election department websites. And you can call their offices as well. The Clark County website number is 702-455-8683. The Washoe County Election Department number is 775-328-2003. We also have a website that we manage with our partners, votesmartnv.org. There's lots of resources there, lots of information that could help voters with the election.
Absolutely. So if you're a voter who needs to know what you need to do to fix anything that might be wrong, or just register in the first place, right? Those resources are out there.
Yes. And I think some other points that I really want voters to know about, particularly with my line of work, I manage a voter registration program at SSV. We have the paper registration deadline coming up on October 8th. So please make sure that you're up to date by then. Fill out a paper form. You could download it online. You can go to the elections department, register over there. You can work with organizations to get your information up to date on paper forms. If you've had a name change, please make sure to register by this date with a paper form. I think another highlight with our elections is that in Nevada, we actually have same-day registration. So just making sure your ID is completely up to date. Like I mentioned, you have to have your address up to date on there. If it's not up to date on your Nevada ID, and for Nevada ID, that's driver's license, the Nevada ID or a permit. Just making sure if you don't have that up-to-date address, that you bring some kind of paperwork that has your name and your current address on it. I like to tell people that you could pull up your bank app get a bank statement on there and show it to the poll workers on the day of. I think that's just the simplest way. You don't have to worry about printing anything. Another thing we like to make sure voters are aware of is that in our state, we verify identity at the polls and on mail ballots through your signature. So just making sure that the signature used to register to vote is the signature you're using at the polls and on your mail ballot. So you don't have any issues. They verify your identity and your vote gets counted. 2 extra points that we love to talk about is that in our state, you can actually pre-register to vote at 17. Great opportunity so that 17-year-olds can be ready if they do turn 18 before the election. Also, if you do turn 18 during the election, go to the polls. You can register to vote there and you'll be fine and dandy and ready to vote. My last point is that in our awesome state, folks who are formerly incarcerated can actually vote at the polls or vote, mail ballot as well. You can register to vote. That's the big thing. If you're out of prison, so you could be on parole, you could be on probation, you could be on house arrest, you can vote in our state. And that's really, really awesome opportunity to have people who have had certain experiences that so many people haven't experienced through the criminal justice system to actually voice what their experiences and guide our state in, the direction that we need to go in.
Absolutely. And all great information. And you touched on a couple of things there that I think, there's a lot of Nevadans now. It's 2024. We've got a couple universal mail ballot elections under our belt. But when you talk about deadlines, right, someone might think, well, like, okay, if we have same day registration, why do I need to care about deadlines? Mail ballots is a big reason. So what should people know about registering to vote before those mail ballot deadlines?
That's a really good question. And it's a good question because so many people in our state, like this is such a new way of voting for us, where everybody's getting a mail ballot unless you opt out, obviously. But so many people have taken to it. My dad votes by mail. My mom, my sister like to vote by mail. So big things that we should keep in mind when it comes to mail ballots. For deadlines, considering deadlines. That October 8th deadline I talked about, as long as you register to vote by October 8th, you are going to get a mail ballot. Awesome. Another deadline we like to tell people is that you can actually register to vote online or update your registration online on the Secretary of State's website or the Clark County Election Department's website. And the deadline for that to receive a mail ballot is October 22nd. Beyond then, you're going to have to go to the polls. So just keep that in mind. If you really need a mail ballot, you're going to be traveling, these are all things to consider and be prepared for.
Okay, all good stuff. And I guess before you go, is there anything else that the viewers at home, the prospective registered voters out there should know?
Well, obviously, this is a very important holiday for people in my line of work. If you're doing anything involving elections, and particularly our partners are going to have so many fun events. Please check out our Instagram to see highlights of those events, information about those events that are happening today. There's going to be puppies. There's going to be boba. There's going to be DJs. There's going to be wings, I believe. So please check out our Instagram, ssv.nv. We also have a giveaway happening. And just check out our Instagram for the details. And yeah. Get registered and get your people registered.
Well, it sounds like a party and one that I want to be a part of. So we'll have to leave it there, though, for now. Angelina Saldana, Silver State Voices, thanks so much for being on Out in Front.
Thank you.
So now that we have a handle on what voter registration day is, I thought we might turn to some of the nitty-gritty details about voter registration in Nevada and some of the key changes made from the top down, both this year and in the last couple of years that you might want to know about. So to tell us all about it, we brought in an expert. Carrie Dermick is the Nevada State Director for All Voting is Local, a multi-state nonpartisan organization that advocates for pro-voter policies all year round. Carrie, thanks so much for being on Out in Front.
Thanks so much for having me, Jacob. Great to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's talk through, I think, a little bit of how voter registration has changed, because it's been a couple years, but there have been some big changes in at least the last, we'll say, half decade here. And the first thing I want to start with is automatic voter registration, AVR, motor voter. People call it lots of things. But what does Nevada's automatic voter registration look like, and why does that matter?
Yeah, so currently the automatic voter registration system is you can automatically register when you go to the DMV to update your license. If you need to have a new update your address or get a new license or really any sort of services that the DMV provides, you can also register to vote. And also if you need to do any of those services online, you can also update your voter registration through their online system, even if you're a first-time voter or just updating your address. And then I think, excitingly, automatic voter registration in the past few years has actually expanded to governor-appointed agencies, basically. And so we know that currently the tribal health centers are currently implementing that expansion that's happening right now. And then really just any agency that the governor appoints will also be eligible for the automatic voter registration system, basically.
So not just the DMV. And to put this in context, I mean, we have actually seen a pretty remarkable increase in the number of registered voters in Nevada from automatic voter registration. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, we definitely have seen it increase. I think before, I remember the days before automatic voter registration, it was much different. You had to either, go to the online website through the Secretary of State's office or fill out a paper form. But I think with the DMV and the other expanded agencies have made it just so much easier when you're already doing something that you have to do, like getting a driver's license or updating your address at the DMV or getting your car registration. You can register right there or update your address. So it's really combining these two services into one, which I think makes it much easier for the average Nevada voter.
A real two birds, one stone situation. So the second big change for voter registration is same-day registration. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, kind of is what it sounds like, right? So what does it look like in Nevada? And, same question, why does it matter here?
Yeah, so for same-day voter registration, that starts on October 19th, which is the first day of early voting, and that goes all the way until November 5th. And so what that looks like is if you did not register to vote, by October 19th, it's not a problem. You can go to any polling place that's in your county and register that day. And then I think another situation that could happen is you may have forgotten to update your address on your voter registration. And so that also applies within the same-day voter registration system. You can update your address that day at the polling place. And I think that why this is so important is all of us, we all have busy lives and families. And, sometimes these things fall by the wayside. And so I really think this provides a service for voters, in case that sort of things happen. And also I think when it comes to updating your address, that you can forget to do that. And the fact that you still have that option during same-day voter registration, I think is so important. Just, I think, word of advice, just make sure if you want to do same-day voter registration, you bring a form of identification that's based in Nevada, basically, or a tribal ID or a military ID. And then also just make sure if you need to update your address, make sure you bring some sort of official document with your address on it, which could be something like a utility bill.
Absolutely. The same way you might have to update your address again at the DMV, right? So,
yes, yeah.
So absolutely. And for that purpose, right? So if someone say, you get the postcard in the mail, right, that says you're an active registered voter, or you're getting your sample ballot, right? If you're not receiving that kind of election mail, that might be a clue that you need to go check your address. And if it's too late to register, then you need to do same-day registration.
Yes, definitely. So, and currently what is happening is our elections departments across the state and the Secretary of State's office, they're currently cleaning up, our voter rolls because people do move out of the state or, unfortunately pass away. And so there is a need to clean up the voting rolls. But sometimes what happens is somebody will move from one apartment to another in the same county, and they will not receive that update from the elections department. And so that voter will actually go inactive if they don't send that postcard back. And so, if that does happen to you and you are not receiving anything from the elections department, like your sample ballot or voting materials, that may mean that you have gone from an active to an inactive voter, which basically means that you are still registered. You just will not receive any sort of voting materials or information from the elections department. So I think if that has happened to you, you can call your election department and make sure that they know that you are registered at that office, and you will actually go back to active. And you can find all of the election department contact information at sos.nb.gov.
And a timely reminder, and frankly, the time to do any of this is now, before you forget, before we get too close to the election.
And you can also register at the SOS's website as well too. Yeah, which is super important right now too, if you need to register to vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it is. So with all that said, and I guess speaking of the Secretary of State, something that I wanted to ask about that is new this year, but has been sort of years in the works, is the Secretary of State is switching to a top-down voter roll system instead of a county up, right? State down instead of county up. And this seems esoteric when you just kind of say it out loud. How does a normal voter interact with any of this kind of stuff? So why is this important?
So this is so important because we're going to streamline our voter registration system in the state, and also streamline our voter registration rolls. And so currently what's been happening is all 17 counties have been managing their own voter registration rolls, basically. And so I think a good example that I learned about from the Secretary of State's presentation on the new top-down system is, so say, I lived in Washoe County from 2015 until 2021. And then in 2021, I moved to Clark. So basically what happens with my voter registration is all the information from 2021 to 2015 is completely lost, because I'm now a registered voter in Clark and not Washoe, because they're maintaining two different systems. So now what's going to happen is, even if you move from one county to another, the Secretary of State's office will still have all of that information and all of your voting history and everything, which really, I think, is really helpful for our election officials and for the Secretary of State's office to be able to maintain the most efficient voter rolls in the state. And then also, I think what this is going to do is, I think this is going to take a lot of pressure off of our county clerks and our registrar of voters having a top-down system instead of a top-up system, because the Secretary of State's office will be in charge of managing those voting rolls and really the voter registration system for the state.
Should be fun stuff. Well, I think that does it. Carrie Dermick, State Director, Nevada Director for All Voting is Local. Thanks so much for joining Out in Front.
Yeah, thanks so much, David. Have a good day.
Absolutely. You too.
Okay.